Hello, hello, hello. This is an intro for another episode of StartUp Rant. And today we're gonna talk about commercials. Well, ads actually. You know, in this pandemic and everything, people are watching television more than ever. And of course, if you ever watched television, ever in your life, you probably notice the ads between the shows, even in the shows, even in the movies. I know when I worked in one company before, I was like baffled with the concept that they had. Like they would actually have a requirement for the software, for the television broadcasting software, that would like even short the movie or something, but the ads needed to go out because that's what was paying the bills. And I was really like, what? Somebody's going to like cut my movie or TV show or whatnot and put just ads inside because that's what's important here, or a sporting event or something like that, that they're just gonna wow. And later on, as you know, you progress, you work with companies and things like that, I realized there was also monitoring systems. One of those monitoring systems is AdScanner here from Croatia. Marin Curkovic is one of the co-founders of this system. So in this kind of an interesting episode, we're going to talk about what that is, what they do, how they come up with that idea, how they fared in pandemic, what they, as a startup, what they did to survive. And also it's interesting because they also are co-founders of another company in this kind of, because they have data of ads and things like that. What can you actually do with that data? There's a company that they created in the Germany called Odellan Collective that we already had talked with. So this is kind of interesting because you never think about these kind of relationships in a normal space, but if you need to pivot, if you need to do something to create a company, it's really interesting because even simple ad on the television, if you're monitoring it and you can actually use that data and create something of it, can be interesting. So stay tuned, listen on, and I hope you will learn something, enjoy it, and all the questions that you have, please send on all the social networks, channels, and everywhere that you want to, or you're following us as a startup brand there. Thank you. Hello. I just pressed record. There was like a little bit back and forth with me and Marin right now, talking about new stuff, new reality. And I said, like, we're going to talk about everything and then not have anything to talk about in the podcast. So, Marin, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's interesting to have you here because you're in a TV space, and I love TV. And in the intro, I mentioned that you're like a company that does this kind of a scanning, like scanning. What are you scanning? Like medical advices?
Monitoring,
Monitoring.
and
You're monitoring. Okay, so even this year before the pandemic, right, was kind of a cold golden age of television because they were like, I don't know, Vikings. We had Breaking Bad, House of Cards, which we're not gonna mention because of the main star doing what he was doing, and it's interesting how that also connects with the real world and what's happening in the TV shows. And there was like this kind of a golden age of television, the news, many good quality shows on TV, and then um, you're how 4.5, 5 years old company called AdScanner, and you said you're monitoring. Are you ad monitoring, or you're doing just advertising, or you're doing control, or you're just playing something out? What are you doing, man?
it's a good. Everybody asks us that question. So usually, when you get either it's investors or clients, and they tell you, "Hey, you have 60 seconds for a pitch," an elevator pitch. That's always tough for me because it's not that easy. But what we do essentially is we like to call ourselves like a next generation TV data company. And what that means is, on one side, the advertiser side and the ad side, we have a technology, that's where the name AdScanner comes from, where we actually scan content and identify ads. And we don't just identify them like for like, we just say, okay, this is a company, belongs to this industry, here's a product, here's what they said in the ad, and here is where it was, when, how often, on which channel. So we save kind of what happened when on TV. On the other side, we partner up with telco companies, telco providers, so cable providers, OTT providers, IPTV providers, and we partner up with them and we use their audience data. What that means is, if you're watching TV via your telco company and you have a set-top box at home, then if we partner up with them, we essentially receive people's interactions via their remote with the television. And that gives us what we call eyeballs. So then we know not just only when something was aired, ads or even content, we also know how many people watched it. And we don't know if you left the room and went to the toilet. We don't know that, but we certainly know if you left the TV on or the device on a certain channel and on a certain content piece. And then we bring the two worlds together. We have measurement. So essentially, you can optimize your TV ad spend. We usually say that you can easily optimize from 2.5% upwards. So in a small market, that doesn't seem very much, but in a big market, let's say Germany, where we're at right now, if you have advertisers who spend more than 100 million euros on television advertising, and you tell them 2.5% optimization, that's a lot. And the second thing is what we call ID matching. So essentially, everybody knows retargeting from digital to digital. So you go to a website, then you go to Instagram, and all of a sudden you receive ads because you went on a certain website. We enable that with our technology from TV to digital. So maybe you're a company, an FMCG company, and you only want to target people on Instagram or in digital who have seen your TV ad, or those who haven't seen your TV ad. So you have really cross-device optimization. That's the second part. And the third part is addressable TV. So that's obviously, everybody says that's kind of the future of TV advertising, both in linear and non-linear, meaning that you, Miroslav, will see a different ad watching the same content on TV than me, even though we're watching at the same time. And that's called addressable. And that addressable technology or the addressable campaigns need to be built on some kind of technology that does audience segmentation for targeting. So you're interested in science fiction. I have now a child at home, so I get some kind of baby stuff. And we are the technology that segments these people and kind of makes a decisioning process who's going to see what, right? So we're along those three dimensions: the measurement part, ROI, that's what we start with always. Then this matching part, TV and online, and thirdly, addressable TV enabling. It's very complicated. I'm sorry. It's
really okay. You got me there when you said, like, I'm in science fiction, but you have a child at home. I actually right now, everything that I search on internet is either connected to diapers, because I have 2 years old son at home, and everything is like, what I got on phone. It's like all the, how you go to the Google News or something,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my God, it's like, I like movies and science fiction and everything, and I only read about diapers right now.
And that's why TV is so interesting for these digital companies. Is we spend a lot of what I would call quality time with TV, because it's a lean back thing, right? We don't search for products on TV, not yet at least. We don't do a lot of rational small stuff on TV. When we turn on the TV, either it's completely in the background, then you can discuss if that's worth anything, or I lean back and I consume what I want. If I'm not a huge TV viewer, I'm what we call a TV cherry picker or unicorn. So I don't watch a lot, but when I watch, I'm very loyal. So I know my 2 or 3 things that I watch. And when I turn them on, I'm going to be watching them. I'm not going to change the channel every 10 minutes. So I spend quality time with it. And quality time on a big screen gives you a lot of good information about what this person, household, or device is kind of needing. And this information is, in a qualitative perspective, much better to segment you into interest groups than what you do online, because essentially we do everything online now. It used to be that online was a channel, and now it's everything. So,
Yeah.
and it's a classical problem of retargeting, right? I just purchased whatever. I just purchased a new phone. I don't want to see for the next month ads for that same phone. It's over. I purchased it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's in your hand, and actually you
yeah,
get all those kind of messages on your own phone that you just bought about your phone,
yeah.
and you're just sitting there and watching, I don't know, Downton Abbey on television, and nobody's giving you information about how to visit England in the pandemic time, because maybe that you wanted to do right now. I don't know. Cool, cool. Just like that. And um, you're a company from Croatia, and right now there was like a few weeks ago a big sporting event in the United States of America called Super Bowl, right? And those kind of commercials there. But I guess that you also monitor that. But I want to ask something before we go to back to that. I want to ask something really important, because this is kind of a connection between the company startup rising, the startup doing stuff. Is just like, how do you actually um, you have this kind of product? It's not just like you mentioned Germany. It's not like you just show up there and say, "Hey, here we are." Like, is there kind of a background, like in networking, money, good employees, how, how that goes by? Let's say it like that.
Yeah. So essentially, in our case, it really is the connection of the background of myself and my brother, who is a co-founder, Christian. Because funnily enough, he was born in Germany and lives and works in Croatia, and I was born in Croatia and live and work in Germany. But that's a side story.
That's life
But
today.
yeah, but my background was always in the I after college, which I did also here in Germany. I wanted to be in advertising, right? I didn't know what part. I just wanted to be in advertising, and essentially I ended up in media agencies, which everybody thinks it's all nice and pictures and creatives. No, it's really purchasing. It's media investment management. It's very rational very often. So that's my background, and his background is telco. There was a time in 2012 when we said, what I was doing essentially at a media agency, and what we were doing is really optimizing clients' budgets, and a lot of it, of course, went and still goes into TV. And then together we were sitting and saying, isn't there an automated and an algorithm-based and a data-driven way to do this, rather than lots of reports, lots of manual work, lots of guessing and gut feeling? So that's
Mhm.
how it gets started. But then you're absolutely right. It's having an idea is one thing, but getting to the next stage is a completely different thing. So the crucial part is perseverance, I think, is the right word, right? Because it took us 4 years. We stayed in our day jobs until we
Mhm.
quit our day jobs and focused on AdScanner full time. And in those 4 years, there would have been 100 moments when people would tell you, quit this, don't do this, it's not going anywhere. But then there's 5 moments that
Yeah.
are worth gold, and then you're like, oh, there's something there, I should focus on that. So more than anything, like, it's not about for us, it wasn't about who do you know, and it wasn't about these contacts and these people. It was more about sticking with it. And we had our day jobs, and we gave them up essentially, and life led us to the point where we built this company in Croatia. Right now we're more than 40 people. It's taken us perseverance, and at the right moment there comes a time when you grow. Hopefully you have some traction, and then it's all about can I grow this significantly to the next stage? And then you have to start looking at stuff like investment rounds, venture capital, VCs, and talk to them. And we were very lucky that we connected with South Central Ventures 2019, which really helped us go from, let's say, small but growing Croatian company to being in Europe. That's the difference, right?
Like, I was just thinking in those lines, because you said like 4 years or something, you were like doing this in a background, let's
Yeah.
say. and then you have like I'm a co-founder of startup. I know that we did the same, and then we like put our money on the table and said, okay, we have what we have, like let's do what we could. But in one point of time, you just have to look around and say, you know, it's kind of a thing that you need to think about. Do I need investment? Do I need a strategic partner? And you just mentioned is South Central Ventures. Um, how that came about? You know, it's not because we need to explain to people maybe that in Croatia in few years back there were no like in Silicon Valley. You couldn't just go and wait in the hall of some kind of a
Yeah, you
VC
can just have a
venture capital.
PowerPoint presentation with an idea and then money comes
Yeah,
flying. I mean,
yeah,
that's not the case in Silicon Valley either, but
yeah. I know.
it's kind of, it certainly is,
Yeah,
it certainly was easier. Yeah.
yeah, but because you can go there and knock on the 100 doors and maybe one will open, but in Croatia there's one door in that time in this region, and maybe two doors, and now there are many, maybe a little bit more doors. But at that time, how do you even approach that? Because I want to show my listeners and my viewers right now, if you can, like what was happening in your and your brother's mind and your company's like ecosystem, like how to approach that problem
Yeah.
to from investment point of view,
I
let's say it
mean,
like that.
naturally, of course, you are very opportunistic in that area because you come to everybody comes to a point when, as you said, you put your own money in, and then you hopefully have some kind of traction to have some kind of story, right? And then even though you have the traction, you're like, oh, cool, that's a nice traction, but if I grow on this rate, I won't get anywhere in 10 years. So something needs to happen. And, of course, you want to have safety for the next 12, 18, 24 months so that you don't have to worry every month about paying the bills and can focus on growing and can focus on, making big decisions and things right. So you're saying, okay, you have to come to a conclusion first yourself and your team. Okay, we need this. We're gonna, because it's not just gonna be something that you create a presentation and you send it out. You need to focus on it. It's a process, fundraising. It's really, you need to organize yourself. And whenever you can, with external help, for people who have already done it, or from somebody who is in some way, shape, or form close to the investment industry, VCs. So organize yourself first, meaning what is our story like for investors? This different pitch than to partners and clients, right? And you can learn a lot from. There's millions of presentations and cases and stuff on that online. But and secondly, who can we approach? And then it's a lot like selling to clients. It's really making a list, cold calling, and the thing that we were lucky in a sense that, South Central Ventures was and is in the region, right? But the thing is, that's maybe the difference between us and our region and other regions. Other regions don't care, right? So I mean, there is startups in Israel who go to Silicon Valley or go to Berlin. So nothing stops you today from going to London, Paris, or Berlin to pitch there. But first, you have to look at the lower hanging fruits, and if there are up and coming funds in your region, then of course you should talk to them. But it's mostly about organizing yourself and knowing that when you talk to them, they have processes that are standardized, and that you need to get through those gates, right? So you need to have certain documentation and certain answers ready for stage number one, which is pitching. And then you come to the stage where they want to look into your business model, and then they essentially want to look into opening up data rooms and want to look at everything. So you need to organize yourselves to fit along that process. And because I think a lot of things don't not succeed because people don't get funding. It's because they don't do the work sometimes that they need to do. So it's not like somebody's going to ask you, can I please invest? No, these companies get thousands of pitches. They get thousands of companies come to them. So they're not going to get to you. And if they do get to you, then you maybe done something wrong because you could have gotten money much earlier. So it's really organizing yourself, and again, perseverance, because what are you going to do? There's a lot of people who are going to say no. There's a lot of people who are going to say, I don't believe in it, or I don't trust it, I don't understand it. And that's okay, because if you these people are often generalists investors, which they need to be, because they go from B2C to, you know, these very specific B2B to really verticals that are very much with their own rules. So they cannot know about everything. You need to maybe tell him something about an industry he knows nothing about in 2 minutes, and he needs to be convinced. So it's normal that many of them say, oh, I just don't know, I don't believe it, TV is going to die. I hear that often. TV is going to die, I'm not going to invest in TV. That's an answer that we get often, which is fine, but you need to know that this might not be representative for everybody. You need to find where your fit is and keep digging, right? And learn, of course, because when you pitch and somebody tells you something, you cannot just take the same pitch to another person. You need to adapt, right? And that's another thing, is don't shy away from no's. Essentially, also, a no is a very good thing. The worst thing is not getting any answer. The worst thing is when you send a pitch or something and you get nothing, and then you do it again and you do it again, and it's just blind. When you get a no, and no because, that's worth so much, and you really should learn from that.
I often say, like, I love the no, because on the no I can work on, because, you know, you said no, perfect. Why?
Yeah, why?
You know,
maybe not even why, but you can just, you know, you can mark it in your Excel sheet as red, and that's fine. You move on, right? You don't keep it in this,
because
this maybe.
Yeah, you know, you have a kind of a list of stuff that you send to the person, and he said no or she said no on some of the items, and you said, okay, I need to work on this, or I need to more explanation to this, or maybe I have the know-how because I'm in this kind of a business and I don't know how to present this properly. You know, that's my kind of opinion on that. So you mentioned, like, you know, you did your day job and you work on that, and in the background this was cooking up, you know, like any good TV show about food, there were some ingredients and of course some advertisement for all the stuff that provided for those ingredients, like a master chef and whoever going to sponsor this episode. But back to you. You have some previous experience in this. It's not like you one day woke up and said to your brother, hey man, we just gonna have this kind of a company. You know, you had like an experience. Like, can you explain a little bit what was cooking before, or like simmering at least?
Yeah, so I'm not a serial entrepreneur in that sense. So I didn't have startups, and we didn't found companies. My brother did. He on his side, he actually built up a telco in Croatia, which is a feat of its own, right? It's not a classical startup, but it's a company that you need to manage. But I was again in the media agency world, and went from really being a trainee and consulting clients to essentially being in business development, which was pitching, right? So my background was
which is important. Pitching, which is important.
And I was responsible for the agency's pitching process and really getting new clients, which of course helped me later on in every aspect, shape, or form. Meaning, you know, obviously clients, partners, pitching to investors as well, but also what it means to you know, create and build up stories and create and build up organizations and companies. Because as an agency, when you pitch, you do a lot of that. You know, you pitch business models same as you pitch ideas, and that was very, very helpful for me. Also, that I was working with different agencies within Group M's and WPP's world, because essentially every one of those teams can be looked at as a startup often, because the world of media changes every 5 years completely. Like, some things never change, because I always say the death of television continues not to happen. That's like something that we like to say, but it's not reality. But other than that, you know, who would have even considered TikTok 5 years ago, you know, when it was Musical.ly or whatever.
I'm just going to interrupt here, but that's like perfect example, because it was called Musical.ly. Even Gary Vaynerchuk, who's right now the god of promotion and everything, wrote that in the book, you know, Crush It or whatnot, as a Musical.ly, and it just disappeared for a few months or whatnot, and then here we go, TikTok.
Yeah, and that you kind of need to have that mindset that the world, of course, especially the world of technology, it's interconnected. So it's not, there is no Croatian solution and then a German solution and then a UK solution, and everybody who thinks like that will not succeed, of course, not globally. It's like if something is relevant and it's working in China, it's going to essentially in some way, shape or form influence us, and the other way around. So first that, and then of course that this nothing is static. So you cannot rely on even when you test something, when you have an idea, even no matter if it's good or bad, the outcomes from a technological or offer perspective, you cannot rely on that. What the answer is today will be the response in 5 years. You have to think of in trends, and you think of where you think the market will be, especially in media. So that was kind of what helped me a lot, because as a media agency, you look at spendings, you look at budgets, you look at developments, and then you can look at 10 years, 5 years in history, and then you quickly are able to identify when something is cooking up and it might be die down next year. It's just a hype and disappears. And you're like, okay, and then there's something else that you say, this is here to stay. And TV is one of those things where the public opinion and especially the tech scenes, I would say maybe wrong assumptions were, it's going to be disrupted. Netflix is here. Netflix launched in Europe, started 2013. In 2 years, linear TV is dead, and then you have a pandemic like last year, and you have spikes, and everybody who's doing something on TV has actually increasing reach. News is going through the roof. So, and then funnily enough, I'm going off on a rant myself here, but funnily enough, what I read in the last month, I read that Netflix is rolling out a somewhat linear feature, meaning that they were testing a non let's say self-determined approach, where the user is experiencing what they call subscription fatigue. So you're paying $10 for Netflix, and you have a million of options, and you spend 50 minutes choosing this show, and then spend 20 minutes watching the show. That's subscription fatigue. And they said to counter that, they introduced a channel somewhat. You just turn it on, and it just gives you the content in a linear shape. So they're going linear in a way. And secondly, I just learned that Amazon has actually launching a linear offer. They're actually going to launch a TV channel, So, and why is that? That's not, I spent, 4 or 5 years debating that and talking about that. That's because of one thing, and that's reach, which is concentrated. So one thing that TV has the edge over everything else is when you have hero content, could be the Super Bowl, could be the news, could be a good show, whatever, that happens live, or it happens at a certain time. So you amass reach at a certain point in time. And that reach, if you do advertising, is what you need to, if you want to advertise on a Sunday evening and you have that reach, then you get people in the store on Monday morning. And digital has the weakness that the reach is completely, it might be more and more overall, but it's never breaks this clutter of having it concentrated at once. It maybe happens when Netflix launches a new show, then it's, or a new season of whatever, something that's interesting, then it's concentrated maybe for a weekend and people talk about it on Twitter and so on. But other than that, after this initial, it's always maybe flat. So it aggregates to a huge number, but it never breaks through this kind of clutter. So, and advertisers need that breakthrough, because they want to, they don't want a campaign that runs for a year to have results. They want a campaign on Sunday evening. So that's what the advertising world needs, and TV still delivers it really good. So when I heard, I think it was in 2016 on a convention, I heard somebody from Facebook, and they were debating Facebook, Amazon, and Google in Austria, and they were talking about the future of video. And then the keywords that were dropped were curated and scheduled. And I was like, oh, curated and scheduled, that's like TV, So it's as if somebody told you that they were going to make a non-stop podcast with music in between. That's like radio, right? So
yeah, as I come from the radio background, this was like, okay, I'm just gonna do podcast, but it's gonna be even better because I will have this kind of a opportunity to shell out, in a way, this kind of episodes that people can listen whenever they want. But if they want, they can just listen one after another. And then I was thinking, wow, if I put music in between, I have a radio.
But there's a reason for that. That's this laid back atmosphere. So when you do not want to decide, all the time what to watch, and you say, hey, I'm going to trust maybe the algorithm to pick for me, or I already made the decisions. I picked 10 shows, or I picked some interests, and I'm gonna consume it laid back. Then there is a huge argument for these scheduled shows and scheduled formats. So all of these things show us, and combined with the recent year, with all of these interesting newsworthy events, that you do go towards TV for to stay up to date. Also because digital, and if that's true or not, that's a completely different topic, but it seems like nobody trusts digital anymore. It's, oh, where did you get that from? Because that site leans towards one spectrum and the other side leads to another spectrum. And if we turn on the national TV channels, it's like, all right, I believe these, when I see it and when I see the speaker read me the news, then it's trustworthier. So TV is still in that space where it must be correct if the news anchor is reading it, right?
So fake news, no, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, fake news exists in both TV and non-TV, but people tend to believe in TV more, right? It's like when there's an earthquake happen, as it did in Croatia, of course you go online, but you definitely turn on the TV, because that's where the real information happens, right?
That's what happened with me, because when the earthquake almost 1 year ago, happened here in Zagreb, in like, there was like, because the TV fall down, it didn't break, but I was like picking it up, like turning it on, and I just said my wife, like, get all the stuff there, but the TV was in the background, like, I'm just gonna hear what's happening.
Yeah, and then you're like, where's the breaking news? Why aren't they talking about it?
What? Like, they're still going with the usual morning show. Come on, there's like, my shelf is on the floor and my kid is screaming. I need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
But I'm going to retrace a little bit back to one of my in the earlier mentioning stuff that I said, was like the Super Bowl, because there was interesting commercials, because I'm a movie buff. I'm not a sport fan, and American football is like
entertainment.
egg, hand, something for me, right? It's entertainment, and people pay massively as a company to get their kind of commercials there and trailers, which I'm a movie buff, so that's what I watch. And in between the show, and there was like Patrick Stewart with his kind of a cool this year commercial, and of course he was promoting also the his show called Picard, which is a Star Trek reference now for all those people who now just tuned off listening to this and watching this, as they're not sci-fi as I am. I wanted to say this is interesting because he was promoting a show that actually is on Amazon, I believe, right now. And it's kind of also one other show, Star Trek Discovery, that's on the CBS in the United States, but it's available on the Netflix here in Croatia and all the European countries. But what's interesting is that is scheduled. You cannot watch the whole season. You can if you want to wait to like 2-3 months until the run is out and then watch it, but it's actually scheduled, and they kind of promote that as that, and they have like this kind of returning people watching that, and everything that is there. Is it a product placement? Is it a kind of a commercials that they run on the, I don't know, there are several streaming services as well, like Pluto TV or whatnot, that are available in a world that actually are similar, like television, like that you can watch. And it's interesting, how can somebody from marketing agency or something like that get that kind of a data and tap into that world. And I'm like ranting a little bit, but I want to make a point, because there's interesting company called Odellan Collective, which with Nico I talked like a week or two ago, and you're part of that as well. And it's not just like, oh, let's just create this again. It was coming from somewhere. And in what you talked in the last few minutes, I can see from where that was coming. But maybe you have like a little bit more insight, because I think that this kind of agencies that kind of use data from advertising space, but also for the companies like AdScanner that can actually predict and see what's happening, not just like from ads, but actually from the TV shows and movies. And it's kind of a melting point of, like, I don't know, pot right now
Yeah.
that can be utilized correctly. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think there's it's not just about the disruption of TV or media channels. It's also about the disruption of agencies in some ways, and how you shape the advertising world. And you mentioned Odellan Collective, and you talked to Nico already. It's a sister company of AdScanner, or AdScanner is a parent company of Odellan. So it's not a partnership. We belong together, really, and we believe in that because you cannot just serve data. You can serve data to the market. That's fine. That it works as a model on itself. But the advertisers have questions then in terms of, how do I use this now? How can I optimize now? Do I need to change the way I work? Can I combine this with something else? So if you just serve data, then you leave these questions unanswered. Of course, they will pay you for the data, but if you really want to see them succeed and them change and transform their communication, you will need to push a little bit more. You need to help them a little bit more. And we founded Odellan because we were all from an agency background, and we all thought, that we don't want to found an agency that is then to become a huge 200-person agency and then become a competitor to all of these other agencies. No, we said, we like each other. We like we think a similar way, and we think in this consulting part, based on what you just said, based on data and the right content strategies, there is a lot to be answered. So we essentially did just that. We said, hey, we'd like to work with clients who think likewise, who think that it really doesn't matter, or it shouldn't matter, that you have a TV ad and then you think about, okay, how do I translate this now into Facebook? How do I translate this now into radio or whatever? We really thought, hey, what is the content that should be placed to be consumed with each targeting audience? And you write the stories and the content based on insights from audience, based on insights from data. And then in the last point, you go to, okay, what is the actual channel? So do I need a 30-second video that is horizontal for TV, or do I need a vertical 15-second video for Instagram? But you don't start with that. You start with the message, and you start with the actual content that is based on the actual data and insights, and hopefully on the client's first-party data as well. So this thinking made us start really this agency. And it also, we are of course harmonizing the two worlds, because as I said,
hi, so we're recording again. We had some technical difficulties here because we just lost, and we are pivoting in a way right now. We lost connection in the middle of pivoting. So Marin, I apologize for that. It's not you. It's not TV. It's this new technology, and it's not me. I didn't press stop. Somebody did. My laptop maybe wanted to update itself or she self. It's hard to talk with the in animate prop or product in he she it terms, but something happened, let's say it like that. Maybe laptop didn't like the conversation. I don't know. But
yeah, maybe it was pivoting.
Yeah, he decided, he was so okay, let's say my laptop was so concentrated on what you were saying that it decided to become
Attack helicopter.
yeah, or drone, because that's like all the rage right now, like, something like that. So sorry for that. So sorry to interrupt you, but it happened, and let's continue if you can about this pivoting thing, so, because it's really interesting.
It's important that you, as a founder, or if you, that's the difference between founding a startup and founding a restaurant, which is a perfectly nice business in itself. But you cannot pivot as a restaurant. You can pivot within that area. You can change your focus, but you're pretty much in the business model fixed. And as a startup, I haven't really met many founders or any founders who haven't pivoted, some small, some big. And what that means is changing your business model, really changing who you address, changing maybe the technology, changing maybe the entire business model, and just keeping the technology. I've seen everything, and that's very important to question yourself. So you have to have perseverance to succeed, as in the beginning. You cannot just stop with the first barrier, but at the same time you have to learn when you have to adapt and when you have to choose maybe something else. And you say, hey, we learned something now, we built a certain technology, maybe we're selling the technology to the wrong people and stuff like that. So you have to identify continuously how you can adapt, and be, in one sense, be opportunistic, because of course you're going to adapt to the places where the money is, and where you think you can monetize most quickly. But that might be a pitfall, because it might not be the biggest growth strategy from a global perspective. So don't always get hung up on small opportunities left and right to bring you money. That's nice, you need those in the beginning, but those are not the ones that will make you as they say, 100 million or $1 billion company in a few years. They're going to be just the ones to pay your bills in the next 6 months. So don't be afraid to pivot, or I would say you have to pivot anyway. I like this, and maybe this is something that I would like to have more, especially in our region, this kind of fail culture, right? Because I liked it when I was in an organization in Germany, and they were celebrating failed projects. Like, they were literally celebrating. They were like, oh, we started this. It was a media company, and they said it didn't work, and they had a party, and everybody was like, cool that you had the idea, and they were having fun with it, because it was more valuable that people kept coming up with ideas and opportunities than it would have been if they didn't have the opportunity and they stuck within their loop. So, because they know that maybe you fail 9 times, but one will be the success that brings everybody forward. So encourage people to not be afraid of failure, because if they're afraid of failure, they won't do anything. And I would like to have more of that, for us to less focus on, this went bankrupt, that didn't work out. You have to learn from that, but that should not stop you from trying to do something yourself.
And that's what I like to explain to people here. That's the problem here, because here in Croatia, people will often say, even when you start a new company, that happened to me. Is that really for you? Won't you have to secure the job? Do you want to have this kind of a burden on yourself?
And those are good questions. That's all you need to answer those questions. That's fine.
Yes. And but when you fail, it was always, because this is not like my first job or my first business. It was like, you see, we told you so. It was like, no, you didn't told me so. You asked me the questions. I had the right answers at that time, and I wanted to explore that opportunity. What happened was it failed. Let's see why it failed, and how we encourage each other or help each other to not fail again. Like that. That's my opinion. Like,
and there's always going to be that mindset. Why didn't you go for the non-risk version that will be safer? And I think that's. And then we are the same as people who open up a restaurant and open up any company. Is you do have a certain kind of vision and a certain wish, and maybe you're a dreamer a little bit, and you want to think bigger. So sometimes it's not even about making it bigger. It's not about taking over the world, but it is certainly about trying to change something within your technology or region, or within broader spectrum. So you need to have maybe be a little bit crazy in terms of starting something, starting from zero, and then you need to be very creative. I think also in every aspect, creative with how you build the model, how you sell, how you hire people, because you will never be the option with the most money. I mean, I don't think any startup was able to hire people and that then went to the startup because they were earning more money. No, you need to convince people that they believe in a story, and that ultimately down the road you all are going to profit from it. And it's not about the paycheck that comes next month. It's about having shares in a company in 10 years or 5 years. That's a different discussion, right? So yeah, it's the mindset that you need to have. And I would like I would like to see that this it becomes part of schools, of universities, that not about finding a company, but doing projects, and learning that projects sometimes fail, and why they fail, and then that the next project is better because the first one failed, and stuff like that. So more of this project related work, and from a global perspective also. So it's not about serving the needs of the city that you live in. That's fine. That's a perfectly good cause. But if you're in this startup world or entrepreneurship, you should think global immediately. I mean, at least have the vision for a global, or the perspective for your region. I think Europe is we like to call ourselves, we're for Europe. I mean, we do not have aspirations of saying we will do something in the next 12 months in North America, but we definitely do believe in a European way and in a European marketplace there.
Beautiful. And what I like about this message is also, AdScanner is a company from Croatia. There is like sister company in Germany. It's kind of like a partnership, symbiotic way of thinking here. And it's really something that can showcase to people around us here in Croatia or here in this region, not just Croatia. Let's look at the whole region, because there are beautiful startups here that are now even famous in the world. But it's like there is no border. There's like really something that you can do for the world, or for like bigger region than just little house that you are at. And also, like, I love this about pivot. I think this is a strong message right now at the end of this talk, to say to everybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter if you have like 15 or you have like 55 years or even 75 years. If you're starting something right now, this is kind of a message that you just conveyed to them. It's kind of beautiful.
And you will have people who tell you no. That's normal.
Yeah,
so
that's
also, you will have people not just to tell you no. You will have people when you start that are opposing it actively. And my favorite learning or favorite phrase is from video games. When you go in the right directions, you will have the enemies will come. If you go in the wrong directions, there won't be any enemies. And I don't mean enemies in the sense, people want to kill you, but I mean, there's going to be opposition if you're doing things right. Because if you're doing things right, you will take money or you will take pieces of cake from somebody else. And that's something to keep in mind. And you will have people around you say, it's a bad idea. Why would you do that? So that's normal. That's a normal part of the process.
Yeah, take the quest and try to find NPC to help you.
Take the red pill. Yeah.
Take the red pill. Go down the rabbit hole and wait for Matrix 4 or whatnot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marin, for this talk. Thank you for this call.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I hope we'll talk again in the future. I said this to all my guests because I don't believe in like we just talked and this is it, because this is like fluid life right now that we have, and it's beautiful for me if in the future, it doesn't matter, is it a year or is it a few months, just to see what's happening there, because I want to show my listeners and my viewers that it's like there's company that go up and down, but you often just hear about when they're up. I want to show the way.
Yeah. I agree. There's it's easy to talk about companies who have 500 million evaluations and funding rounds. I mean, easy in a sense that it's a good story and that's fine. It's very well documented and everybody wants to be part of it. But I also like to. There were moments where I was very inspired by Elon Musk and his failures before, and that it teaches you a lot more than him buying Bitcoin today, right?
Yeah, about Elon Musk, I have this kind of a thing that I know that people don't like when I say it, but I'm gonna say it. It's like the guy is from Africa.
Well, technically,
and people forget that. Technically he is, but people forget that.
But it doesn't really matter where he's from.
It doesn't really matter, and that's the point here, because people will say like, he's the CEO of Tesla. He's the fourth CEO of Tesla. And things like that. People need to know that there is a story behind every company, behind every person. Like even AdScanner here right now. Maybe somebody in the future will just see your successes, but right now maybe they will listen to this talk and say, okay, they were here, they were doing that, and that's beautiful for me. And that's like I said,
the most important part is that every year, maybe even every month, but at least every year, you can look back and say, I'm in a better position now than I was a year ago, you know.
yeah,
And of course, that might be too slow for certain growth trajectories, but that's more important than that's much more important than, you know, fulfilling a business plan, because fulfilling a business plan is nice, but then there's going to be another business plan. But you need to look at yourself in the eye and the employees and the team, and you say, hey, did we achieve stuff, and are we in a significantly better position now than we were before? Yes. So let's focus on what went well, and let's fix what didn't go well. And everything else will, if you have the right team and the right perseverance, everything else will happen. Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, Marin, thank you for this is really beautiful, because, you know, I think that people need to understand that just stick to your guns, as they would say in all American movies about Western type of people, like John Wayne, stick to your guns.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck, good fun, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.